In a way, all wars are stupid, but none are more stupid than the ones on this list.
Kendra's first intro.
How'd I do?
Very good. I like it.
Thanks.
Hey Wanderers! Welcome back to another Foolish Wanderers podcast, the podcast about anything and everything. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most ridiculous wars throughout history.
Stupid wars.
Stupid. Kendra says stupid wars, which a lot of them are.
Stupider wars.
Stupider.
I like that word.
Stupider. Reminds me of Jupiter.
That's what I was thinking too. There has to be some rhyme, like elementary school rhyme with stupider and Jupiter.
Oh, boys go to Jupiter to get more stupider.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's what it is. Okay, so yes, today we are going to talk about some very ridiculous, stupid wars from history. All right, and we're going to start with my favorite, the War of the Bucket.
Why?
We'll get into it.
Okay.
Okay. So the Battle of Zappolino that was waged over a silly wooden bucket. All right, the War of the Oaken Bucket, as it is popularly known, was fought in 1325 between the rival city-states of Bologna and Modena in Italy. I wonder if Bologna, that's where bologna's from, because it's spelled sort of like the same way.
It could be. Let me Google quick.
Sure. I hate bologna though. It's like the worst.
Yeah, it's not my favorite either.
It's just I wouldn't even eat it. I'd hate it.
Oh.
Pork parts.
Well, that's what hot dogs are, so.
That's true, but like a hot dog isn't kind of like it's a fun food. A hot dog is I don't eat it that often, but it's a fun food.
Yep, City of Bologna.
Well, that's a sad thing to be known for. Anyways, it started when a group of Modernese soldiers snuck into Bologna and stole an oak bucket, which was used to draw water from the well located in the center of the city. While the bucket itself held no historic or sentimental value, the crime hurt Bologna's pride and humiliated the Bolognese, and they demanded the bucket to be returned. The Modenese refused, which outraged the Bolognese, and war was declared upon them.
I mean, it would be kind of embarrassing, right, to have your enemy come in, steal a wooden bucket, and you're like, well, shit, we didn't see them. It's like a high school, right? Like, you steal your mascot.
The mascot, yeah.
Yeah, my mascot's a wooden bucket.
The oaken bucket.
The oaken bucket.
So Bologna mustered a huge army of 30,000 foot soldiers and 2,000 cavaliers and marched them towards the battlefield located near what is now the commune of Zappolino. Facing them was a puny army consisting of only 5,000 men and 2,000 cavaliers that Modena managed to assemble. The Modenese also found themselves awkwardly scattered in the plains with their enemy, the Bolognese holding the high ground in the surrounding hills. So I have the high ground, Anakin. It's like that.
Exactly.
So despite being outnumbered nearly 6-1 and practically surrounded by the enemy, Modena's army fought bravely, and just in a matter of hours, the battle was over.
Wow.
With the Bolognese taking to their heels and the Modenese tracing behind them. The Modenese army not only chased the humiliated Bolognese all the way back to Bologna, they actually managed to break through the city's gates and destroy several castles and a sluice lock on the Reno River, thus depriving the city of their water supply.
Wow.
At this point, Modena's army could well have sieged the city, but they chose not to. Instead, they decided to humiliate their enemy. So right outside the city gates, Modena's men taunted their vanquished foes by organizing a mock palio, a sort of medieval athletic event that was commemorating those sent out on the expedition and the eternal shame of Bologna. So as if the Bolognese weren't shamed enough, before returning to Modena, the men stole a second bucket, taking it from a well outside of the city gates. So now they have 2 of their buckets.
Oh, goodness. That's fantastic. I mean, not fantastic, but it's kind of funny.
It's pretty funny. So
Now looking back on it, it's funny.
So approximately 2,000 men lost their lives in this ridiculous skirmish.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So following the war, the two parties agreed to peace, and Modena returned a couple of properties it had previously captured from Bologna as a gesture of goodwill. Yeah. But the bucket, that was never returned.
Oh, wow.
They never
gave
gave
property.
it back.
Let me just keep your bucket.
Yep. Just keep your bucket.
We don't want it anymore.
We don't want it. What'd you think about that?
That's ridiculous.
Wasn't that
that's the
funny?
title. Oh goodness. I mean, I suppose it's probably like the powder keg, right? Where it's like,
Yep.
oh, you're ready to pounce on each other for so long, and all of a sudden this little thing happens. You're like, war!
Yep. I would say that's what a lot of this stuff, all of these ridiculous wars are just built up, and then something stupid is the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Okay.
goodness.
So this next one, so I originally had seen this a few years ago, and it was referred to as the Watermelon Wars, but then doing more research now and a lot more sources, it referred to it just as the Watermelon Riot.
Okay.
Both are not good things.
No.
So you can refer it to as whatever you want.
Okay.
So I like to have a little bit of backstory because this, just wasn't about a watermelon, but it's fun to say that it was. Okay. So Panama, this takes place in Panama. It was a province of Colombia known as New Granada, and through an agreement in 1846, the United States had troops stationed there. So, not surprising, the Americans were not popular.
Yeah.
Yep, we never are.
Not really.
So, for the U.S., the Isthmus of Panama was of great strategic and economic importance.
What is the isthmus?
An isthmus? Let's look that up. I thought it was like a peninsula, but so an isthmus is a narrow strip of land with sea on either side. So it's forming a link between two larger areas of the land.
Oh, so kind of like a land bridge.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're talking about Central America, if you could picture a map in your head with that air, how that's what isthmus is. Okay. So the Isthmus of Panama was of great strategic and economic importance. At a time when east to west travel across the continent was sluggish and dangerous, the opening of the Trans-Panama Railway in 1855 was a boom to commerce.
Okay.
So ships could unload on the east coast of Panama, and their cargoes and passengers could transit the isthmus by rail, then reload onto ships and head for California, to San Francisco and San Diego and that stuff.
Yeah,
so
safer.
Yep, safer, quicker. Don't have to go all the way around South America.
Okay.
So one such journey saw a trainload of about 1,000 people arrive in Panama City on the Pacific coast on April 15th in 1856. The passengers had crossed the isthmus from the Caribbean coast, and they were headed for San Francisco, drawn by the gold rush. So they were planning to board a U.S. steamship called the John L. Stevens.
Okay.
But there was no wharf to accommodate such vessels at Panama City, which had to dock at Toboga Island, which was 20 kilometers away. Because of the shallow water, the ferry to Toboga could only operate a high tide, and the train had arrived on a low tide. So the passengers would have to kill time for a few hours. And that's when the trouble started. A man named Jack Oliver was already drunk from boozing on the train.
Great start.
He used the waiting time to get even more boozed up.
Great.
So he was lit.
Oh,
So yeah, drunk American in a foreign town in a foreign village doesn't spell trouble at all, does it?
No, it's gonna be peaches and rainbows.
Yep, peaches and cream. So some people became happy drunks and some people became mean and belligerent. So that's just how drunks, are. So Oliver, it seems, was a member of the latter group.
Great.
Great. So in a rundown part of the city known as La Cienega, which translates to muddy area, I hope I pronounced that right. I don't speak Spanish. I think I got it right.
Do you want me to look it up?
No.
Okay.
I'm going with it.
I can't. Okay.
Muddy area. Bad part of town. So Oliver saw a street vendor selling watermelon slices for 5 cents each. A nickel. Delicious. He helped himself to a piece of the fruit and refused to pay for it.
Why, asshole?
Ah, yeah, what an asshole. So several versions of what happened next can be distilled down to the following narrative. The Watermelon Man, one Jose Manuel Luna, rightly aggravated, pulled a knife to back up his demand for payment. Duh.
Oh, okay.
I mean, why? I mean, it's his job,
It's
right?
his job. Yeah, I know.
So Oliver responded by brandishing a gun.
Oh no.
As Luna was wisely making a hasty retreat, one of Oliver's pals threw a nickel at the fleeing vendor.
That's
By
really
now,
mean.
a sizable crowd of locals and Americans had gathered to observe the altercation. A Panamanian man, Miguel Habron, tackled Oliver and took a gun away from him. During the struggle for the weapon, it went off, lodging a bullet in the Panamanian man and causing anger among the bystanders.
Oh no. Okay.
Oliver and his friends. Hey, isn't that a Disney movie, Oliver
Yeah.
and Friends?
Yeah, it is.
Isn't it like about an animated cat or like an animated dog?
It used to be one of my favorite movies. Yeah. It
So
was like
picture
a little...
them.
No, it's not.
This is the
because
sequel.
this is
Oliver and
horrible.
Friends. Oliver and Friends go to Panama City for spring break and they refuse to spend they get belligerently drunk and they refuse to spend a nickel to
That's
watermelon.
horrible. No, we're not making
This
that
is
sequel.
a sequel.
No.
Streaming
I
exclusively
refuse.
on Disney Plus.
I refuse. You cannot ruin my childhood favorite
This-
movie.
So Oliver and friends sought refuge in the railway station, and soon pistol shots were fired by both sides.
Wow.
The police arrive in an attempt to bring the mayhem to a close, but the bullet from inside the station hit an officer, which caused the lawmen to ally themselves with the gathering of locals. Armed with machetes and clubs, gangs of Panamanians went looking for U.S.-owned businesses to trash. They also attacked people who looked like Americans.
Oh no.
So they don't know if they are Americans. They just look like Americans. So with the what's the stereotype of an American tourist? It's like a t-shirt with the jean shorts and
yeah, just got, like, cargo
hiked up.
shorts.
Yeah,
You
cargo
got your,
shorts.
like your flower printed dad shirt. You got your little hat, some Nikes,
Sunglasses,
yeah, and your fanny pack.
binoculars.
Yep.
Those people. So
Oh,
at
no.
the railway station, a telegraph operator sent out a message calling for reinforcements. Soon, a train arrived with a group of armed railway police under the leadership of Randolph the Hangman Reynolds,
Oh, gross.
a former Texas Ranger. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Texas
okay.
Rangers don't mess around.
No.
Texas Rangers mean business.
Oh no. Okay.
So Reynolds and his men took aim at the rioters and called on them to stand down. Reynolds was well known and highly respected among Panamanians, so the mob dissipated.
Okay, good, but
The worst of the rioting, or the war, was finished, and it was time to count the cost. 15 Americans and 2 Panamanians were dead, and more than 60 people were injured.
wow. Okay.
The riot gave a boost to the plan to build a canal across the isthmus so that the cargo and passenger ships, along with the naval vessels, could cross the terrain without interference from the natives. Hidden History notes that, quote, within a few decades, the United States would arrange another rebellion by the Panamanians, which separated the province from Colombia and allowed the Americans to build the Panama Canal, end quote.
That's actually a really interesting history of like how they decided to make the Panama Canal.
So they had to get Panama away from Colombia, and then
Wow.
interesting. So it sort of led to the building of the Panama Canal, which is one of the biggest engineering feats
Of history.
of all time.
Yeah. That's
Cool people, right?
something you
And
don't
it
learn
all
in history.
happened because Oliver and friends got drunk and went to Panama City and refused to pay a local vendor 5 cents for
5
his
cents.
watermelon.
What was 5 cents back then? I feel
I
like
don't
that's
know.
a lot, right?
Maybe 25 cents? I'm not sure.
1855,
1855, 1856?
Why, Oliver? Why?
Why, Oliver?
Why?
Shame on you. All right, our last war is the War of the Stray Dog.
Okay.
Yeah, cue Sarah McLachlan.
No, I don't
and the
like that
sad
song.
music.
I hate that song. No.
I changed the channel.
Yeah, I also can't afford that copyright, so so we're just gonna not have that.
We're not gonna have it.
No, sorry.
Picture it. Be sad.
Sad dogs, puppies, rain, black and white images of puppies and cats sitting in cages.
Sad. Here we go. The War of the Stray Dog. So in 1925, when conflict erupted between Greece and Bulgaria, the two countries had been at odds for some time, and strangely, it was a stray dog that almost sent them into full-fledged war. So it all starts on October 18th in 1925. A Greek soldier was manning his post at Demir Kapou.
I think so.
Kapow?
Kapow!
I think it's Kapu.
Kapu.
Not cat poo, but like
No.
Kapu. So, yes, a Greek soldier was manning his post at Demir Kapu Pass near the border town of Petri, Bulgaria, when he stepped into Bulgarian territory to retrieve his dog that had strayed over the border. So the story goes. The border was guarded by Bulgarian sentries, and one of them shot and killed the Greek soldier.
He was just trying to get his dog back.
Yeah, he was just trying to get the dog. This led to a disorganized firefight between both sides. At one point, a Greek officer came forward with a white flag, hoping to negotiate peace. The Bulgarians didn't seem to care, though, and shot the officer as well. The skirmish ended shortly after. I don't know about the dog. I assume the dog just
Probably
ran away.
Yeah,
ran.
Scared, yeah.
In the aftermath of the event, Bulgaria explained that the firing was due to a misunderstanding and expressed its regret. And the story could have probably ended there, but Greece's new military dictator, Theodoros Pangalos, that's a Greek name, wouldn't let it slide. Known for his hot temper, Pangalos instead wanted to prove he was a force to be reckoned with and decided to retaliate for the incident. That's great. He began to mobilize troops and issued an ultimatum to Bulgaria, giving them 48 hours to punish those responsible, issue a formal apology, and provide compensation for the incident.
Wow, that's a pretty big incident, because you kill somebody who's trying to get their dog, and then you get somebody who's trying to initiate peace, and then you don't give a shit. Yeah, many not good things.
Many not good things. So Bulgaria would refuse this ultimatum, and so on October 22nd, the day before Kendra's birthday, Greek troops would send to occupy Petri and the nearby land. The Bulgarians fought back, but the Greeks maintained their control over the town and surrounding region. After evacuating from most of Bulgaria, appealed to the League of Nations for help.
I mean, you kind of caused this one, so... I mean, I feel bad for the innocent people, but the ones that caused it, I don't.
So the League of Nations pressured Greece to stop their invasion and pull out of Bulgaria. The League also demanded that Greece pay £45,000 to Bulgaria as compensation for their occupation. So £45,000, that's equivalent to dollars, right?
I think it's a little bit different. I think
maybe it's a little bit more in US dollars. I don't know.
Almost 70,000.
So $70,000. Okay, US dollars. So Greece was not happy with these terms, and they felt they were being treated unfairly. And when the League sent out military forces from France, Italy, and Britain, they had no real choice but to comply. The conflict came to an end. When all was said and done, the War of the Stray Dog lasted only about a week and had fewer than 100 deaths.
That's good, I guess.
That's good, I guess, but still, people died.
Yeah.
The Bulgarians emerged victorious, and the event served as an early chance for the League of Nations to prove its importance. The conflict was, however, an extreme embarrassment for Greek dictator Pangalos. He had successfully crippled Greece's already strained international relations. Many of the officers that he had helped bring Pangalos to power turned on him. They decided that he should be removed in favor of the former president of Greece. So Pangalos disappeared from public life for a while. He was eventually imprisoned in the 1930s following a corruption scandal, and he returned to public light following the German occupation of Greece during World War II. He would die in 1952. As for the dog, well, it was never really heard from again, but we like to think it lived a long, happy life somewhere in the Greek.
We don't need another, sad Old Yeller story, right?
Yeah, no, we don't.
We're gonna say he lived a long, happy life.
And some sources for these stories, using planet.com, owlcation.com, Wikipedia, and sporicle.com.
Never heard of that one.
They're all pretty interesting. I'm gonna have to go and look at some other articles and posts that they have.
This is the Sporicle one? It sounds like the best one. So I did kind of do a little bit of research too for this episode. I didn't know if we need more.
Ooh, we might need more.
I need more. One of the wars that I came across was the Pastry War.
That sounds awesome. I haven't heard of this one.
Okay, so here we go. So after his Mexico City pastry shop was destroyed by a lawless mob in 1828, a French chef named Romantel asked the Mexican government to pay damages because, you need help. He
lost his shop, yeah.
Yeah, yep. It was a request that was promptly ignored. So he asked the French government for help instead, but everyone basically forgot about the request as well. So he's kind of
Oh no.
out by himself. So 10 years later, the incident somehow caught the attention of King Louis Philippe, who demanded that the Mexicans pay Romantel, including a whopping 90% interest rate.
Wow.
So that's insane. So when they refused, the French blockaded Mexico and occupied the city of Veracruz. So the saddest truth behind the pastry war is that no one really cared about the pastry, like about the chef or the
Just
shop.
used him.
Yeah, basically they just wanted money.
Yeah.
So the Mexican general Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna came out of retirement to fight the French. However, even his efforts didn't really help. The French stayed until Mexico agreed to pay. So, however, it didn't like cough up the money after France pulled out. Like nothing ever really happened to it. But there was another French invasion in 1861. But then the French Empire fell, and everyone basically forgot about it for good. They forgot about the money, forgot about all this, and Romantel never got a penny. So,
No.
so basically all fought for just like government wanting money from each
Yeah.
other. Pretty stupid.
Man, that sucks.
Yeah. So
Now I
yeah.
really want a croissant.
A croissant.
Like a nice, hot, buttery croissant.
Ooh, I like the ones with chocolate in the middle.
I don't like that. I just want to. I'm such a plain person. I like vanilla ice cream. I like just a simple coffee with a little bit of cream, nothing more. Nothing, that's what I like. And then I just want plain croissant.
Fair enough. You like the simple things, so you taste the flavors.
I like simple things.
So I have another one too that's kind of interesting. So this one is called the War of Jenkins' Ear. Like the body part.
Is it really about a body, like a human body part?
Yeah, his ear. Yeah.
All right.
So, in 1731, a British trader named Robert Jenkins was stopped by Spanish authorities and accused of smuggling. The Spaniards seized his entire cargo, and for good measure and for no reason, they also cut off his ear. So, 8 years later, fast forwarding, the British were looking for an excuse to force Spain out of the Caribbean and South America. So they launched a war that saw 25,000 dead or wounded and nearly 5,000 ships lost to supposedly avenge the ear.
The ear, that's what it, yep.
It's just like, oh, here's this, not little, but like, here's this thing that happened 8 years ago that we can use to to break out in war.
Yep, that's pretty smart.
So, it says that the war didn't quite break out quite as much as the disease did. So, the war didn't do as much quite as disease did. That's kind of weirded.
What disease?
Okay, so just like kind of tropical diseases, it says. So, and the disease was actually much more, it had a lot more to do with the body count than the actual war did.
Oh, okay.
So the British lost almost every offensive due to tropical diseases. Spain, so Spain fared just as badly in its counterattacks. To top it all off, everyone forgot about Jenkins' ear when the War of Austrian Succession broke out, and the English began fighting the Spanish and the French for who could rule the Germans in Austria. I don't know, just kind of like another like one of those stupid like things.
We use this as a cover-up reason to avenge an ear.
Yeah,
so we can go to war. Yep.
Yep. Seems to happen
We're going to avenge cartilage.
Yes. I hope it healed up well.
Ooh, I doubt that it did. Stubby hole.
Oh. Speaking of ears, I think I was on TikTok, and this person it was on Board Panda. They posted a photo of, they had a Van Gogh mug. You know how Van Gogh cut his own ear off, reportedly. So the mug was like, the handle was his ear.
Did it break?
Yeah, the handle broke.
That's
so
smart.
Lost his
That's
ear.
funny.
I thought that was pretty.
Does
funny.
it just happen by accident? Like the person
just,
that
like,
owned the mug just dropped it and the handle broke?
Yeah,
that's funny.
That's pretty good. I thought that was funny.
That's pretty funny. Okay. Speaking of crazy artists, I came across this article about a sleep technique that Salvador Dali claimed really works.
Okay.
So, some of the most creative minds, including Salvador Dali and Thomas Edison,
oh, I think I've heard of this,
described using this sleep technique to bolster creativity.
Okay.
So, here we go. So, to get the creativity boost, you essentially need to wake up just at a certain sleep stage sets in. I say that again. I said that all weird.
Okay, good.
Okay, so to get the creativity boost, you essentially need to wake up just as a certain sleep stage sets in, where reality seems to blend into fantasy.
Okay.
So, to use this technique, visionaries such as Dolly and Edison would hold an object, such as a spoon or a ball, while falling asleep in a chair. As they drifted off, the object would fall, make a noise, and wake them up. Having spent a few moments on the brink of unconsciousness, they would be ready to start their work.
Okay.
So it's just as you start to drift off to sleep, like you're nodding off to sleep. That's when you're supposed to like wake up and start doing your thing that you're supposed to do, creative thing.
I'd just be tired.
I know, I just go back to sleep.
Yeah.
So this is the more scientific reasoning behind it. Okay.
Okay.
So this early sleep stage, known as the hypnagogia stage, or N1, let's just call it N1.
Yeah, N1. That's easy.
Lasts only a few minutes before you drift off to a deeper sleep, but
Okay.
it may be the, quote, ideal cocktail for creativity, end quote, the researchers wrote in the study published December 8th in the journal Science Advances. Humans spend about 5% of a night's sleep in N1, but it's an extremely understudied sleep stage, said senior author Delphine Odetti, a sleep researcher at the Paris Brain Institute. In N1, you can imagine shapes, colors, or even bits of dreams in front of your closed eyes, yet still hear stuff in the room. The pattern can be very different, depending on the person. Inspired by the great minds who employed the technique, Odetti and her group set out to test whether the sleep method would actually work for everyday people. They recruited 103 healthy participants who had the ability to fall asleep easily and asked them to avoid stimulants and sleep a little bit less than usual the night before the experiment.
Okay.
They presented them with a math problem. Why would they use math? I don't know.
That's yeah, it's supposed to be art, isn't it?
It's supposed to be creativity.
Oh well.
Okay, so they presented them with a math problem in which they had to guess the last digit in a sequence and provided them with 2 rules that they could apply in a step-by-step manner to figure it out, but the researchers included a hidden rule that the 8th digit was always the 2nd digit in the sequence. So if anyone figured that out, it would significantly reduce the amount of time it took to solve the problem. I don't know how any of this uses creativity, but all right. So, quote, contrarily to the popular view, creativity is not restricted to specific fields such as arts. That's what Odetti says.
Okay.
So creativity involves 2 elements, the originality and usefulness to the context. I mean, I guess so, but like math, if I was in this, like and they had a math problem, I'd be like, no, and I go back to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. You have to have that right brain type or like mentality to
And
do
those
that.
kind of people, I don't think, in my opinion, aren't that creative.
I guess it kind of depends. I guess like you could argue that you have to be creative in like how you solve the problem, right?
I
But
guess
if
so.
you're going from like, well, you said like Einstein used it too, right?
Edison.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you're talking about like Dolly and Edison, like I guess that's more creative, like more the artsy side to me, not necessarily because you're trying to figure out something that's not strictly math,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, the experiment, I don't know. I guess
I
think
mean, this is my thing. The math people are smart with math.
yeah.
You can't have everything. You can't have my creativity coup. You can't have your you can't have it all.
Oh no,
Let me have something.
I'm just jealous.
Mm-hmm. So back to the little stupid little thingy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's not stupid. Their experiment. So in the first part of the experiment, the participants were asked to solve 10 math problems using the 2 rules. They were then given a 20-minute break in which they were told to relax or sleep in a comfortable position on like a semi-reclined chair in a dark room with their hands placed outside of the armrests. They held a light drinking cup so that if they fell asleep, the cup would fall and make a noise and wake them up. Yeah, so they put these like people in these reclined chairs and they gave them like a cup to hold, and if they started to fall asleep, the cup would fall and then they would wake themselves up and then they'd have to go and do the math problem.
Okay.
So it's not clear why the N1 sleep stage boosts creativity, but because it's a semi-lucid state in which you lose control of some of your thoughts, yet are still somewhat aware, it might create, quote, ideal state where you have this loose cognition and weird associations. In this phase, you also have the ability to catch it if you get a good idea. So you're able to be like, oh, that's a good idea, and retain it maybe. So the researchers who asked the participants who fell asleep what was going through their heads right before the fall of the object woke them up, one participant said, quote, "At one point, I saw a horse in a hospital. There was also a man who was doing the same experiment as me, who was much older and who had a kind of plastic helmet on his face." End quote. While another said, quote, "I had the feeling of being at the water's edge, no wind, where there were airy sounds as in a temperate forest in summer." End quote. Other participants saw geometric shapes and colors. The researchers found that about 1/3 of the reported thoughts were linked to the task, but they didn't find a link between those reports and an increased insight. So the researchers are now hope to test the effect of N1 sleep on different types of creative tasks, perhaps some with more real-life application. So that's what they're gonna do.
It'd be kind of interesting to, if I just have like a day I don't have to be up super early, it'd be interesting to try it, just like see what I'm thinking about at that time point. I don't know, but I also don't fall asleep that easy, so
I don't fall asleep that easy either.
It'd take me a while.
It takes me a while too.
But I suppose if it's like, if that's the point, like where your body just completely relaxes, then I guess like if you're still holding the object, right, to wake you up, it wouldn't really matter if it was like a certain time point, because it's your own body that kind of is the timer, right? Because even if you fall asleep like after 15 minutes, like sitting there like, ugh, right, trying to go to bed, if your body like all of a sudden goes into like that REM and then drops it instead of, it'd still wake you up around the same point.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It'd be interesting to try. I remember, in college, like, some of those all-nighters, I take, like, 20, 30-minute naps, and sometimes that would help. But if that's any truth to it, but probably not.
I need a nap now.
Alright, Wanderers, thank you so much for listening to another Foolish Wanderers podcast. If you'd like to look at some companion images, or do we have companion images? Probably not.
I don't. It'd just be a bucket.
I found a picture of the actual bucket. It still hangs in the bell tower.
Oh gosh.
So I have a picture of the bucket I could put up.
Cool.
Alright, Wanderers, thank you so much for listening to another Foolish Wanderers podcast. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, you can email us at fwplisteners@gmail.com. Check out our Instagram where we can post companion images to pretty much all of our episodes.
And then new episodes of the Foolish Wanderers podcast are out every single Wednesday from wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure you like, subscribe, and comment, and hit that notifications button so you know when our new episodes are out.
Yeah. Alright, Wanderers, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.